Hey everybody, so this is the last of the footage from my trip to Silver Falls back in April. I've been sitting on this for a while. It's kind of a lot to go through, but this is just such a nice solo trip, and I got so many great pictures, and I think this footage is pretty fun. So there is an 11-minute video, and I'm about to do a reading from a book, and it's regarding the murder of Michael Brown and the Ferguson uprising. And it's an essay written in 2014, and 10 years later, it's still just as prescient as ever. And unfortunately, there's been so many ways we've made progress, and so many ways where things feel worse than ever. And just thinking about this time. I was actually in the Midwest at college in Iowa during this period and when this was going down. And it's interesting to reflect on that. And I definitely was following it. And people act like Black Lives Matter is this new thing that's only because of George Floyd, which is obviously dumb. Protests against police brutality have been going on ever since the police have existed, and the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it was Ferguson that really kicked it off. I don't know. I think Trayvon Martin still remains the first murdered unarmed black man or boy, where I really think too, and I think part of that is because he's my exact age, and it also happened when I was paying more attention to politics. But sometimes it feels like the conversation's gone nowhere. Actually, one little aside, there was one employee at my college who I had to work with, and this was someone in residence life, and in residence life you have to deal with a lot of personnel. And I think about this because they kind of happened before the internet was so ever present, like 2014, but I remember, and I did not have a good experience with this person. And the position we were at, you had to deal with a lot of giving out fines and stuff and having power as a hall director. And I just remember that this hall director had some Facebook likes on some pages that were basically all about Michael Brown deserved it and justice for the cop who killed him. And that was really gross. So anyway, here we go. What's up, y'all? I'm going to do a little reading from The View from Flyover Country, Dispatches from the Forgotten America. This is by Sarah Kendzior, and it's actually the book that I was reading the night that Riley died. So even over a year ago, I was still struggling with my sleep and just trying to get to bed earlier. And this is a night I was like, okay, I'm going to get in bed at 1 a.m. and just read. And this is also a book that Riley had and had given me. It's kind of hard because they had mentioned that they really were just struggling to read and just didn't read anymore, which is fine. I mean, I've definitely gone through long phases where I struggled to read. And even when I say that, I got to remember that I'm constantly reading. And if you're out there feeling like you're not reading as much as you want to, you're probably also super busy, and it's hard just to carve out the time, and there's lots of ways to take in information. But also, just try and be easier with yourself, and maybe that will result in you feeling comfortable reading. But this book, it's kind of annoying that I was able to get to bed early when I should have been sprinting over and saving Riley's life. Just if I had telepathy and I knew what was going to happen, I could have been over there and smack that meth out of their hand and say, no, we're going to live. Yet here we are, and I am just reading into a microphone, and the world keeps on spinning. But this essay is called St. Louis's Sons, Taken Too Soon. And I think Sarah is from St. Louis. And I will have some thoughts after I read it, but let me just get started. I'm 2 minutes in. I haven't even started reading. Oh, goodness. There is a park near my house in St. Louis where I walk every day. To get there, I walk past empty stores and vacant lots. past a brick, whitewashed church onto which the proprietor painted decorative windows to make it look like the kind of place It could be if anyone around here had money. The park is always busy. Families hold barbecues, children climb trees, young men shoot baskets, fathers coach sports. Almost everyone who goes to this park is black. When I walk through the park, white policemen ask me if anyone is bothering me. When I walk through the park, black men preface inquiries for directions with the phrase, "Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you." Those are the assumptions that come from living in St. Louis. Sometimes they are spoken, but usually they are just felt. At the far end of the park, there's a teddy bear and a balloon tied to a tree. They are left there to commemorate a 20-year-old man who was shot and killed in July. Makeshift memorials like this line the landscape of St. Louis. They remind passerby that the person who died was someone's son, not an archetype or a statistic or a threat, but a son. Those the public are taught to fear are often the ones in danger. The shooting happened near a high school reunion in late July. It had nothing to do with a reunion, an annual park affair attended by the enthusiastic graduates of a 90% black public school system. The shooting, which took place in another part of the park, seems to have been the violent outcome of a private feud. But around St. Louis, on the internet, the chatter began. On websites, white St. Louisans speculated on the inherent danger of such a large gathering of black citizens. They stated again and again that they were not surprised. A shooting in St. Louis is never surprising, but it will always be shocking. That the cruelty of the act is complemented by the callousness of the reaction, that when a community cries, someone always finds a way to give it more to grieve. Decades of violence. When Michael Brown was shot, many of us in St. Louis heard about it on the internet before we saw it in the news. I saw it on the Instagram account of Tef Poe, a rapper and writer who has emerged as one of St. Louis's many black activist leaders. He posted a picture of a man, Brown's stepfather, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Ferguson police just executed my unarmed son." It took hours for the media to report on the story. Initial reports from the local paper referred to the gathering of a crowd outside where Brown's body laid in the streets for 4 hours as a mob reaction. They retracted that description as momentum grew, as a casualty so horrifyingly common became recognized as the crisis it was. If you had asked whether the killing of Brown would become an international cause or swept silently aside, most would have bet on the latter. It is a testament to black St. Louis activists and their ceaseless documentation and calls to action that it was not. No one will forget the killing of Michael Brown, but that killing was preceded by decades of police brutality, of violence, of losses, of teddy bears tied to trees. During the 2013-2014 school year, 17 St. Louis public school children died, a record number. The second largest number in 2010 was 8. At some schools, kids don't come back to school for several days when a young person has died in the kind of violent death that occurred last night because they think there may be repercussions, a St. Louis school superintendent told local media in March, after an 11-year-old black boy was shot through the window of his home. By spring, trauma counselors were working overtime. Now, after the death of Brown and the tear gassing of the local population, including children, they work around the clock. St. Louis was grieving long before the tragedy of Ferguson, or at least parts of it were. Like everything else in St. Louis, grief is unequally allocated. This is a city where people live their whole lives seeing certain neighborhoods only on TV. St. Louis is a city where black communities are watched, by police, by spectators, more than they are seen, more than they are heard. Healing St. Louis. At my daughter's bus stop in St. Louis, the children would play games. They would chase each other and run, laughing and screaming through neighbors' yards. "You better watch it," one child called to another. "I'm going to call the police, and it doesn't matter what you do, they'll put you in jail for nothing." A white classmate asked the boy, who was black, what he meant. He said that that had happened to his uncle. The white boy looked at the black boy blankly. You can live next to your neighbor and still exist in a different city, with different rights and rules. You can greet each other with sincere warmth and never fathom the disparity of experience. In January, my daughter's school held an event to celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They called it MLK, not a day, but a way. We marched through the neighborhood, parents and children and local leaders, to show that the struggle against injustice was never over. but we all march to different beats, to different histories, and it would have been foolish to pretend otherwise. In the auditorium, in a great public school that is, like so many primarily black St. Louis public schools, in danger of losing accreditation, we sang, "We Shall Overcome." My daughter clasped hands with a black boy, her partner in the after-school science club. They sang a few bar, then lost the words, and began whispering to each other about the movie Frozen. It was a scene of childhood innocence that advocates of a post-racial society like to promote. A black boy and a white girl sweetly holding hands. But like all childhood innocence, it is an illusion. That boy will find danger when he ventures into the world, unless St. Louis and all U.S. cities change their ways. There is a movement to heal St. Louis. For St. Louis to heal, we need to examine the deep wounds inflicted on the decades of discrimination and distrust. We need to protect the young black men who are threatened but portrayed as threats. Michael Brown is one of St. Louis's many sons taken too soon. Originally published August 27th, 2014.